Hello friends, today we are going to discuss the poem The Spider and the Fly, which is composed by Mary Botham Poet. The poem is an analysis of human character and human psyche by the poet. The poem is in the shape of a fable. A fable is a piece of writing in which animals represent humans and behave like humans, but basically deep down the given story or the story on the surface, actually there is a message that goes down the audience or the people out there. Now in this poem we have two characters, namely the spider and the fly. The spider represents the evilness in people. It is a male with evil intentions, and the fly represents innocent, attractive women who are of young age. And through this poem, the poet actually sends a caution down this young women population out there, so that they do not get ensnared or entrapped by the nefarious intentions of people who try to, please the simple gullible people with their apparently sweet talks, and then they try to fulfill their nasty motives. So now we start with the explanation of the poem. In the first stanza we see the spider is trying to entice the fly. He is trying to lure her with his offer. He wants her to venture into his parlor and have a look at his parlor, which according to him is the prettiest little parlor in the world. And he says that that his parlor is up a winding stair. But here we see that the fly comes across as a very worldly, wise, intelligent being. She very politely refuses this cunning spider's offer, and she says that she has no interest in looking at the curious things that he might have to on offer. Plus she says that to ask her even to venture into his parlor is absolutely in vain, because she is already aware of the consequences and the fatalities that this visit might cost her. So she is not going to venture up the winding stair, because she knows that whoever has ventured up the winding stair which leads to the spider's pretty little parlor, they have never come down again. In the second stanza we find that the spider is now playing his next card. He says that the fly must be very tired after flying so long and so high, so he offers her to rest a little upon his little bed. He says that his bed is very pretty, there are pretty curtains drawn around, the sheets are fine and thin, and if the fly wants to take some rest for a while, then he will snugly tuck her in. But this time again, the fly, being very wise and careful, she clearly rejects this offer too. She says that she has heard it that people who have ever taken a nap on his bed, they have never woke up again. So she, being a very worldly wise, smart little thing, she doesn't want to get herself into any danger. She doesn't want to be ensnared or entrapped by any sweet talk of this evil spider. So she this time also refuses his offer vehemently. In the third stanza we see that being refused on the earlier two occasions, now the spider wants to make another approach to the fly. He says to the fly that he doesn't know that what he can do to prove his honest and seemingly honest actually intention, and his seemingly positive thoughts about the fly, that he actually meant well-being of the fly. And he then again invited her to have a look at his pantry, that is his kitchen where he stored his food, and he offered her to have a bite of the delicious things that he had in store. But this time also the little fly refuses him. But here suddenly we see that the fly, as if going a little softer, because for the first time here the fly addresses him as kind sir. She says, oh no, said the little fly, kind sir, that cannot be. I have heard what's in the pantry and I do not wish to see. So although she is refusing his offer, but at the same time she is showing the style that she is actually started to melt, which is why she is referring to him as kind sir when he makes his offer to her to have to partake of whatever is there in his kitchen store. In the fourth stanza, we see that the spider, on being refused on the past 3 occasions, now he has thought of taking another route. He is now praising the fly on her beauty, on her intellect, and on her gift of mind. He calls her sweet creature, he calls her witty, he calls her wise, and then he showers praises on her outward good looks. That is, he praises her on her gauzy wings, her brilliant eyes, and then he says, in fact, then he makes an offer that if she steps into his parlor for a while, then he has a piece of looking glass there where the fly can actually see herself the way she is, beautiful, gorgeous, and extremely pretty. And this time the fly cannot exactly refuse his offer at one go. She replies that she will definitely give it a thought and she will definitely call on him some other day. And not only that, she addresses him this time as gentle sir, which exactly shows that she has actually given in under the words of this cunning, devilish spider. And that is how she is shown the first child that yes, she is going to melt under the impact of his willy talks. In the fifth stanza, we see that the spider got his answer. He now knows that this stupid, silly fly, who has just made a promise that she will call on him some other day, will actually drop in, and now he goes about on making the arrangements. He goes in and he weaves a subtle web, a very thin kind of web, so that he could entrap her in a little corner, and then he set his table ready to devour the fly. And then he came out to his doorstep again, and then he started singing a song. In his song, he enticingly calls the fly, saying that come hither, hither, pretty fly, with the pearl and silver wing. Your robes are green and purple. There is a crest upon your head. Your eyes are like that diamond bright, but mine are dull as lead. So once again, he showers praises on the fly regarding her good looks. He says that the fly's eyes are beautiful, her eyes are as bright as diamond, she has a beautiful crest on her head, and her dress is of green and purple color. So overall, she is extremely beautiful, and at the same breath, he laments upon his own lack of beauty and says that his eyes are as dull as lead. So all he wants for the little fly is to come in for a while and see that how much gorgeous and how much beautiful that she looks. And this time his invitation doesn't go unheard by the little fly. In this stanza, we find that how the silly little fly's own gullible nature brought her to her own undoing. She fell into the words of this willing, cunning spider, and she came flitting by. So this time she forgot all her own previous caution. She forgot all that what she had said earlier, how she had rejected his offers over and over again. But this time she only was thinking that how beautiful she is going to look and how much beautiful she actually is. She was only thinking of her brilliant eyes, her green and purple color, and her beautiful crowned head. But the poor foolish fly what she didn't understand was that all these words of flattery, all these apparent sweet talks was nothing but just a trap to ensnare her, to devour her, and like a simple gullible thing, she fell into the words and she came flitting by nearer and nearer the cunning spider, and the moment she was within the reach of the spider jumped upon her. He dragged her up the winding stair, just right up there into the dismal corner of his dark den, and that was the end of this fly, because we never knew or we never saw her again, which shows that the fly was killed and definitely devoured by the cunning spider. So he here was successful in his nefarious intentions. And finally, in the last stanza, the end of the poem, the poet makes an appeal to the reader, because the target readers are the little children who might be reading this poem. And she sends a word of caution through her poem to all the innocent supplicants out there, that they should not be so innocent or so simple or so gullible as to fall into the traps of this devilish cunning people and ruin their lives. They must be avoided at any cost. So all these people who try to attract with their superficial sweet talks, we must be all careful and cautious about their ulterior motives. We must keep our ear and eyes and our heart open, and basically we should all be cautious against any such, I repeat, any such action on the part of those evil people out there who might have devilish intentions. So the poet says not to be ensnared or entrapped by them, but to be very cautious, very wise, and very careful in dealing with the people out there. Thank you.